is for Algebra 1, lessons 21 and 23, which I've combined together into one lesson. Before we start this, let's review real quick, how do you multiply binomials? Remember, you always take this first term and you multiply it times everything over here. So we're going to take x times x, which is x squared. Then you're going to take x times 4, which is 4x. And then you move on to the next term, which is a 3. In fact, it's a positive 3, and we're going to multiply that times everything over here. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Usually, these two middle terms will be like, so you want to go ahead and combine them. 4x and 3x is 7x, and then we get 12. So I gave you a whole worksheet on practicing how to multiply binomials. We can do one more here. Remember, x times x is x squared. This is not just a 5, this is a negative 5, so I'm going to take x times negative 5, which is negative 5x. And again, this is not a 6, it's a negative 6, so multiply your inside terms, which is negative 6x. And then your last terms, negative 6 times negative 5, well, two negatives give me a positive 30. And don't forget, these are usually like. Negative 5x minus 6x is a negative 11x plus 30, okay? So practice on that. Now, what we're going to be doing today in lessons 21 and 23 are going backwards. They're going to give us this, and we're going to look for the two things that multiply together to give you that. So we're going to go backwards. Anytime you factor, like think about this. We're looking for factors of 12. Think about your factors of 12. They are 1 and 12, because they multiply to give you 12. They are 2 and 6. And 3 and 4. So you're going to be thinking about the factors of 12. The tricky part when we get ready to start today is, how do you know which factors to choose? Well, you're going to always choose the ones that add up to the middle term. So out of all these, look, this one adds up to 13, and this one adds up to 8, and this one adds up to 7. So I'm like, those are my magic numbers, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing here in just a second. So let's go over here to lesson 21 and we'll get started. Today, all of these are really going to be nice and easy because this coefficient, that's the number in front of the x squared, is always 1. So if you look at all of these, my coefficient's always 1. And then next time we will learn how to factor when it's not 1, even better. Okay, so I'm looking for two things that multiply together to give me this, okay? Now, make sure you do your two sets of parentheses. They should be touching right here. Don't give me any big gaps. But we know, since this is x squared, this has to be x times x, because that's how you get that first term. X times x gives me x squared. So that's easy enough. Now, the last one is going to have to give me 6. So I want you to think about all the factors of 6. It's 1 and 6, or it's 2 and 3. Those both multiply together to give me 6. But I need them to add to give me the middle term. So this one adds up to 7, so it can't be that. It's going to have to be this. So it's going to have to be a positive 2 and a positive 3, because think, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 plus 3 is 5, so that works. And you can see if I multiply this all out together, I would get x squared. This would give me 3x plus 2x, which is 5x, and then 2 times 3 would give me the 6. Okay, so let's try another one. How about this one right here? Again, I'm looking for two things that multiply together to give me this. I know these first two terms have to be x, because x times x gives me the x squared. Now think about your factors of 10. You don't have to show this. Most of you can do this mentally, but here are your factors of 10. How do I know which ones to use? It has to add to the middle term, so it has to be this one. And it doesn't matter what order. You can put the 1 here and the 10 here, or you can put the 10 here and the 1 here. It doesn't matter. But it's going to be a plus 1 and a plus 10. And right now your signs are pretty simple because these are both plus. Okay, so you can see this is not a bad assignment at all. Now, let me see. I'm going to flip over it real quick. Do I even find any where there's a minus sign yet? I'm going to think not. So all of these basically the same. Let's do this one real quick. Just one more. Two things that multiply together to give you this. Well, x times x is x squared. Can you think of factors of 18 that add up to 19? And again, you don't need to write this out, but here are your factors of 18. Okay? Notice this is the only one that adds up to 19. So it's going to be a positive 1 and a positive 18, and that's it. You can see if you factored all that out, you get exactly what you started with right there. Okay, so The only thing different about lesson 23A at all is that sometimes you have a little minus sign in here, which is great. So this is no different. Let's do this. You still wanted to add up to the middle term. X times x is x squared. Think about your factors of 10. Again, it's 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. Well, here's the deal. They have to add up to, ooh, not 7, but negative 7. And you can see this adds up to a positive 11, and this adds up to a positive 7. So guess what? Just make them both negative. Notice that adds up to a negative 7. But if I multiply them together, negative 2 times a negative 5 is 10. It's a positive 10. So I need one of them to be a negative 2 and the other one to be a negative 5. So it's no different. You're just watching your signs a little bit. Let's try another one right here. This is number 8 from 23. Again, I want two things that multiply together to give me this. This has to be x times x, which gives me x squared. Find factors of 30 that give me negative 11. Well, first of all, I'm just going to start like I always do. I'm looking for factors of 30. So that's 3 and 10 and 5 and 6. And if you see it right off, don't even worry about showing this. But the only one that adds up to 11 is right there. But I needed to add up to a negative 11. So just make them both negative. You can see that that adds up to negative 11, but if you multiply it, it gives you a positive 30. So it doesn't matter where you put the negative 5 and where you put the negative 6. You just got to make sure you get them in there and it looks nice and neat. And that's it. There's really not any work to show on these. It's something you either know factors or you don't. Now, why do I like this one even better? Let's go ahead and do this one, because now I've got two negatives. Okay, no big deal. We're going to start this just the same. X times x is x squared. I'm going to think of all my factors of negative 36. Now, for the first time, this has been negative. Okay, well, first of all, let me think of all my factors of 36. It's 1 and 36, and 2 and 18, and what, 3 and 12, and 4 and 9. Okay, but it needs to be negative 36, so one of them have to be negative. So I'm just going to do that real quick, make one of them negative. Now, I'm looking for something that adds to give me negative 5. Well, that gives me 35, and that gives me 16. Okay, but look at this. If I add these two, do you see I get a positive 5? Ugh, so close. I wanted a negative 5. Well, guess what? Just switch the signs. Now it multiplies together to give me a negative 36, but it adds to give me a negative 5. So that's your magic numbers. I need a positive 4. Doesn't matter where you put it, but I need the 4 to be positive. I need the 9 to be negative. Another way to think about this is, since my number is negative right here, then give the bigger number the negative sign. Okay? All right, let's try another one here. I think I'll let you skip that because notice this is not a 1, and we're not going to do any today that are not a 1. So if you get something that's not a 1, you don't have to do that. Okay, let's try this one. Again, x times x is x squared. You're looking for factors of negative 35. Well, so that means one of them is going to have to be negative. So I'm going to do that. They have to add up to be a positive 2. Well, look, that adds up to be a positive 2. So it's perfect. It multiplies to give me negative 5. It adds to a positive 2. So I need my 5 to be negative and my 7 to be positive. So these should be easy peasy.